Yeah. Okay. So these are the things that you need to know. So the first one is an if then else statement. So this is one of these, I guess, like phrases that happen. Like every programmer, this is the first basic thing that you're going to learn in terms of like making computers do things that you want. If something, so if 1 plus 1 equals 2, then do this. Else, do that. That's the simplest way of going through it. So if something is true, if if Jimmy Hoffa is smart, print do this. So then that would it would meet that criteria. Else is like, okay, so if it's not true, do that. That's very simple if then and else statement. These are crucial because we're constantly going to be comparing variables. So if we think about, I want to know if this NFT is less than 5 Sol, right? That would be a do this, else do that, right? Or if this NFT is less than 5 Sol and has the champion crest, do this, else do that. So that's how we're going to use that in the program. There are what are called conditional operators. So this is when we want to compare something. So what are the conditions? And it's just it seems like a complicated term, but the computer needs to know what you mean. And so the double equal sign is this equal to this? If we used a single equal sign, we'd be changing the values of things. Like this should equal this, but double equals, does this equal? Exclamation point equal, does not equal. Greater than or equal to, and then less than or less than and equal to. And so you'll see that more and more as we're trying to figure out, right? Like, is this NFT less than 5 Sol? Then that's the one I want to use. Or less than or equal to 5 Sol? Then that's the one I want to use. So if 8 is less than or equal to 4, which it is not, do this, else do that. So it is not, so it would actually print do that. The next thing we want to talk about are variables. These are when we want to store a value, and that could be anything. So that could be a single digit, like 4. It could be multiple digits with decimal points, like 17.85. Or it could be a string of characters, like where it's like a phrase that we want to say, like "Hello World." And in this case, if we were to store variables like that, we could then change them at a future date. So right now x equals 4, but maybe later on in the program I want x to equal 7 for some reason or another. The reason why we use a variable is that it's kind of like algebra in that sense. We can change the variable to get different results. So in this particular case, we would combine the two. So right, if x is less than, right, so if x is less than y, so if 4 is less than 17.85, which it is, print z, which is hello world. So on the screen, we would see hello world get printed. Now we're going to combine some more of those. So, and how they kind of, so we have integers. What an integer is, this is x equals 4. It's like a single digit number, no decimals. That's, if I ever said integer, it would be single digit number, no decimals. If I did further, I did a float. I don't know why they call it a float. I think it's like a floating point number or something to that effect. I can't remember back to my university days. Those are the ones with decimals. It's just, it allows us to store a bigger number, essentially. We're going to be using floats a lot because Sol is kind of marked in floats, right? The 6.3 Sol, so we'll be using float numbers more than integers. And strings, we want to print something to myself. So when I showed you that original program, it would say, like, you know, searching this collection, and it's sending a string to me so I can print it on the screen and I can monitor to see how things are going. Next up, we're going to talk about loops. And what a loop is that I want something to do over and over and over and over again, right? And so basically, we're going to get that to do a few times. But if I showed this screen, no, it wasn't this one. It was, oh, maybe it was this one. Yeah, I did the sample here, the test here. I had, when I was running this, it was like every 5 seconds. If you were here early, it was printing a new message. It was basically the same message over and over. Every 5 seconds, it would print a new one. And that's kind of like a loop, right? I want the program to continue running indefinitely at this point, so we need to have some sort of loop involved. And a while loop is what it's called, is a very, very simple loop. It's super easy. So for instance, we're going to start with x equal to 0, and we're going to say while x is less than or equal to 5. So while 0 is less than or equal to 5, do it. So we're going to go and we'll print x. But then we're going to change the value of x. We're going to say x equals x plus 1. So the way that this would run, the first time it would go, it would say while 0 is less than or equal to 5, print x. So x is currently 0. So it would print 0 to the screen. And then it changes x to be 1. And then it starts the loop over. Is 1 less than or equal to 5? Yep. Print 1, make it 2. Is 2 less than? Yes. Go on, go on. And then eventually it's going to say while is 6 less than or equal to 5? Nope. Then it's going to stop because it's no longer true. And you see on the screen, we would see the output 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it would stop. Very, very simple. So if I wanted to print those numbers, that's how I would do that. But anyways, this is the advanced loop, and this is going to be the most complicated thing we do for our what's it called? For our bot. It's a for loop. Very simple. For x in the range of 5. So it's got a weird language to it. They call it a for loop. So for x, so for every thing that's in a range of 5, print it. And it's going to iterate. So iterate's a big word. I guess count through automatically each of those numbers. So everything that's within the range of 5, I'm going to print to the screen. And our output would be exactly the same. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we go back to the while loop, you can see the output is also the same, but there's a little bit more lines of code. One of the things with loops is that they all effectively do the same thing. Like we could make this one a while loop. We could make the other one a for loop. It's a little bit easier one way and the other depending on the situation, but essentially we can do what we want with them. And if one is too hard, you do the other one. And that one makes more sense to you, and do the other one. Doesn't matter. It's going to do the same thing. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about arrays. How do I talk about array? Array is like a group of numbers or strings or phrases. So you could think of that as like a book. Like we have a book. That's like an array of pages. There's a whole bunch of different pages. So if we had a 50-page book, we'd have an array with 50 little pages, and each page has information, and we could put that in together. Or we could have an array of cars at a car dealership. Like how many cars are there? Well, there's car 1, car 2, car 3, car 4, car 5. That could be a whole array, a collection of different things. But I'm just calling it car dealership, or I'm just calling it book. And so for instance, the way that we would do that, so I could set x, which is my variable, I can make it, instead of just 1, like x equals 4, I could say x equals a collection of numbers, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I could say, oh, right, x, I know it's an array. Could you add a new thing to the array and make it 5 so that it would end up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? And people are like, okay, so x is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I take my for loop and I'm like, okay, I wanna for everything that's inside x, I'm gonna make it equal to y. So for y in x, print y. And it's gonna print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's gonna go through each of those inside that array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's basically it. I kind of wanted to give a small analogy for object-oriented programming. This is essentially what we're doing, and why Python and all of these higher level languages like Java and C++ all work really, really well. In this case, you have a Tesla. I do not know how to build a car. I don't know how to repair cars. I could probably learn. But even less so, I don't know how a car radio works. I have no hot clue how when I mean I have some ideas that like when I turn a knob it's going to adjust some sort of variable and the volume kind of goes up and that's connected to my speakers. And in terms of car repair, I know though that if my stereo is broken, if this part is broken, I can just pull out this part, take it out, get a new one, plug it back in, put it back in, and it works. That's kind of like object oriented programming. I don't have to know how the inner workings of everything works. I just have these little objects that I kind of slap onto my program and I plug it in the right way and I know how to turn the knobs and it's going to do all the rest for me. That's essentially what we're going to be doing. Is we're going to call in a bunch of things you don't need to know. I don't even know how they do all of the little individual things like what resistors and circuit boards and integrated circuits and all the rest of the stuff that it does. I don't need to know. Don't care. All I know is that it works and that's enough. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff where it's just like, I'm calling this library and telling it to do this. How does it do that? I don't know. I just know it does because I read the manual and it told me it does. So, yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. How are people feeling about stuff?
Pretty good, pretty good. I just have one question. Could you go over, you mentioned integer, float, and string. Could you go over
Yeah.
string?
Sure thing. Let me bring it up. It's a good question. Do I have that up here? No, I don't. Okay.
I'd love a copy of these notes. I feel absolutely bereft without a pad to be able to write stuff down.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally share that. That's
Thank you.
fine. So yeah, the variables, different types of variables. So x, the integer is just the single digit. A float is a digit that has decimal places, so it could be a much bigger number. And then a string is I would think of it like you know what, like birthday parties, you would have like the happy birthday with all the letters that are kind of lined up on the string. That's what I'm talking about. So when I say a string, it's like a string of characters, HAPPYBIRTHDAY exclamation point. I hope I spelled that right. And hanging across. That whole string is essentially what I'm talking about. So Z is hello world, and that's the string for it.
Okay, so just to make sure I get it correct, so integers and float about numbers, whereas a string could be any kind of character. It could be a number, or it could be a letter, or a symbol, or something else.
Yes, exactly. And one of the things about the program is that we may run into a situation where I've got a string that says 423 and I've got an integer that says 5 and I want to multiply those two things. And the computer is going to say like, no, I can't multiply a string of characters. Like this is like a sentence and you're telling me to multiply it with a number. I can't do that. I need two of the same things. And so the first thing we do is we say, hey, by the way, this string is actually a number. Can you convert it to an integer? Yeah, I can do that for you. Good. Now multiply them together. Okay, got it. So sometimes we'll run into things like that where the variables aren't matching and we have to convert one over. But yeah, that's exactly it. And
Brilliant, thanks.
any other questions at all? That was a good one. None. All right. So we're gonna. By the way, this is the Soulful NFT. I love this art. I think this is spectacular, and so I had to own one. All right. So I've got Visual Studio Code here. Does everybody have it open by chance?
Yes, it's just I mean I'm at the very beginning where the getting started
Okay.
piece.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Same, yeah, me as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna get started here. I'm just gonna open up some stuff. So it's fairly simple. So let's see here. I'm gonna bring this up. Um, Microsoft has a really good way to kind of like get us started in those types of things. So if we wanted, why don't, instead of me sharing my screen, why don't we have one person share theirs, and I'll walk you through your process while the rest of us watch, I think that will be the easiest way, as opposed to me not thinking of every little tiny nuanced detail that may or may not exist. So who wants to volunteer, and I'll help you set it up.
I volunteer boot.
Oh my word.
You beat me to the punch.
Why are you picking on me? Okay,
All right.
I'll have to switch Discord a minute.
I'm on two different devices, so I can't share. Otherwise,
Oh,
I'd
that makes
still
sense.
nominate Boot.
It's Man, we were picking on Boot earlier today. We were blaming him for everything. Poor guy. Oh man. No. Let's see. What else do I have going on? Yeah, I've been watching various things, and so earlier today, while we wait for Boot here, Crabman and we were talking about a project, and we were talking about like making money on projects, and one of the things is that I think a lot of people in this space don't do a lot of math when they probably should, and they're actually losing money when they're convinced they're making money. And then there's the people who actually just think about it logically and do the math, and they're the ones that make the money. And so I'm hoping that maybe as the rest of us, that we can all figure out what are the simple calculations I need to do in order to actually make money in this space and not think about it otherwise. How you doing there, Boot? You got your stuffs? Oh, I see him live. All right, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, is that good? Can you see that?
I can see that. That's awesome.
You're not getting feedback from me, are you? Because I'm not on headphones.
No, no, it's
No.
good for me so far. Yeah, that is awesome. Okay. Um, so the first thing you do, of course, is either light or dark theme. I always prefer the dark theme, but that's whatever. It's personal preference. Yeah. Okay. So then the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna go over to, on the left hand side of your screen, you're gonna see three squares with the one square. Yeah. So this is the extensions section. So we need to extend Visual Studio Code to install Python. So go ahead and click that. It's going to bring up a whole bunch. And hey, look what the most popular one is. It's Python. So if this didn't come up, we would just search for Python in the top one. But yeah, you'll see the little blue install button there. We're going to click on that. Now what this is this is a Python interpreter. That's the way in which they would describe it. And what that is it gives Visual Studio Code a way, the way to interpret this code and the way to do those types of things. And so what this did is, by clicking the install for Python, it actually installed a whole bunch. It was not installed before using. Please download and install Python before using the extension. Wonderful. So what we're going to do is you're going to open up a web browser. You can open up a web browser window while we're waiting on that.
Are we all going to get to see his cookies? Brilliant.
Yeah. Maybe close down some of those sites that you were opening first. We'll give you some time to do that.
Just check. I think maybe. So yeah, so I've got that. Can you see that or not?
No, we can't, because you're just sharing your Visual Studio Code, so I'm not seeing your desktop.
Oh, you definitely picked.
You got to stop here. I'll actually share my screen. So I'll share my screen here. I'll stop watching and then I'll share mine. You can see the million tabs I have open on this window. Python.org is where we're going to go. And then we'll click, we'll go to downloads and we'll download Python 3.10.4. And then once you download that, you'll save that and you'll install that. Yeah, so sometimes I'm not 100% certain why Microsoft Visual Studio Code doesn't always work for everybody, but in terms of installing some of those things, but there are ways around it. We're going to do some fun, like adding some environment variables and stuff that can get kind of confusing. You know, it is what it is. I should probably, here, if I'm going to be recording his screen, there. Yeah, so one of the other things that you'll see on the extension side that we can see on Boot's screen is there's a lot of like community built kind of extensions that could work. So like you'll see third from the bottom is prettier. It's a code formatter. It just makes your code look a little nicer. I have something called prettify. So when I write really something ugly, I click prettify and it changes it to look nicer for me. So it's a little more legible when I come back to it. So there's lots of like little fun little things like that in there that once you start diving deep into stuff you can do. How goes the Python install?
I'm all set.
You're all set? Okay. So let's see if you can open a new file. We may, so go to File and New on your Visual Studio Code. Top left there. Oh yeah, you had to get rid of your Python thing.
You said new file, right? That's what you said?
Yep. New text file is fine. Yep, that works fine.
There's new text file, there's new file.
Yeah, yeah. Either one works. So we're going to do a new text file. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to save this. So we'll click Control S or go to File Save. Yeah, just to see if what we can do. We're going to click down to Save. I don't know what's shown up on your screen because it doesn't show up for me. But you're going to want to save it as test.py. The letters like py, the first two letters of Python. Papa Yankee, if you like your phonetic letters.
Test.py.
Okay. And you can see where you show test.py right on your screen at the top there. It kind of has like that little Python-y symbol beside test.py. It kind of means that, like, okay, it looks like Python is going to be installed. We can actually hit the X on the Python is not installed at the bottom. Yeah, we can click that there. Perfect. So what I'm going to get you to type, something very, very simple. Type the word print. Yeah. Open bracket. So parentheses, sorry. So the Shift 9. I think Shift 9. Yeah, Shift 9. And then quotation marks. So, yeah. Shift pinky on the right hand. Perfect. And type hello at Lessio.
Or all one word or space?
Yeah, you can put a space. Yeah, sure. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to go over to the right-hand side, and you'll see the little play button, like the Google Play button kind of thing. Yeah, there. Yeah, we're going to click that, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to run this file.
Okay, clicking now.
Okay. Okay. So it says Python was not found. Run arguments to install from the Microsoft Store, disable the shortcuts, and blah, 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 blah. Perfect. So what we're going to do is, because you installed Python and this was open, we're going to want to close your window, maybe save your file first. You can hit Control S to save. And then we're going to close VS Code and reopen VS Code just so we can kind of see the, so it can reload the interpreter. Is everybody else kind of seeing the same thing and encountering the same thing as Boot is there?
I think so. It's weird because I have to toggle back and forth between screens, but
Yeah.
I think I got it.
Okay, fair enough.
No, exactly the same as Boot had it.
Yeah, yeah. It's not uncommon. It's one of those things of like, I know how to, but I can't really address it because I can't reinstall it the same way on my computer because it already did all those things for me. When you got it open back up again, Boot, would you mind sharing your screen one more time?
Oh, is it not showing it? Sorry.
No, no, it
Um,
would have closed when
got it, yeah.
yeah.
You seeing that?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's just opening up for me here. Wonderful. Okay, so now, oh, you already ran it. I didn't even see that you did. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, I thought we were still sharing, so I just ran it here.
Perfect. So yeah, so it works. We've got hello at Lesio, and you can see it printed there. Um, did anybody have a challenge and it not work? Don't seem to have anybody. There might be one thing that there might be one other setting that some people might need to install. So I'm going to stop watching the screen here. Maybe I'll share mine. Let's see here. Which screen should I share? Sure. This one. I'll go left. Wonderful. Oh wait, maybe I want to do. Maybe I want to share a different screen. Can I change my screen? Can I do it? Change windows.
How many windows do you just have open, Kay?
Oh, dude, like I've got 3 monitors and I don't know how many I got open. So I'm like, okay, which one are we gonna share?
Blimey.
I know I'm terrible for this. It's bad. I need help. Woo! That one's fun. How do I?
At least you're not rocking 5 monitors like certain people else in the room, eh?
Does Dawn have 5?
I've only got 4.
Yeah, I
I've
thought
only
you had
got 4.
4.
I have a fifth one ready to be set up, but I haven't set it up yet.
I have a like my monitor arm holds 4, but just the way that I am in the office, like I can't fit 4 on the desk. That's my only restriction. Just, they hit
Yeah,
the
I have
wall.
a I don't know what you call it, like a stand that's attached to my desk, and it
Yeah.
basically holds all 4.
Yeah, that's what I got too. Okay, so if you guys can see my screen, you kind of go into your Windows thing, and if you just start typing, it'll search for certain programs. What we want to do is we want to edit some system environment variables. This is like some like hardcore Windows hacking stuff, but we're not going to break anything, so it's not really that hardcore. So yeah, I just started typing environment, and because that one usually brings it up. And once I do, of course, it goes to a different monitor. I bring that up. What I'm looking for is just this little button down here is environment variables. I want to bring that one up. And there'll be 2 things. There'll be user variables and there'll be system variables. And with this, I want to go to the path field. So you'll see path on both of these. We're going to do it on both of them. So I'll start, and I just double click on path, and it brings up a whole bunch of these. So what this is telling Windows is, like for the environment variable for the user, is it's saying when this user is logged in, these are where these programs are located. And so if I want to run something, you don't have to type all of this stuff. Like you don't have to type. I don't have to type c:/user/ender/appdata/local/pro. I could just type Python, and that's enough. And so what we're going to do is you're going to click New. Well, first you're going to see if you have your Python ones already installed. If they're there, don't care. You're done. Awesome. If you don't, you're going to want to look to see where your Python interpreter was installed. It would look something like this. I don't know what your user computer name is or something like this. What I would suggest is just kind of like searching maybe in a folder that's similar to this. And then like I would bring up something like that. Let's see here. Users or whatever. So bring the screen up here. So I'd bring up something like this. C drive / users. There's Ender. There's app data somewhere in here. I think that was what it was. Ender app data. Yeah, so if you can't find the app, there's app data there. If you can't find your app data, which it might be, you could right click properties. It will be a hidden one. So I'd want to, where is show hidden? View, here we go. View, show hidden items. So app data is a hidden item. Click on that. I'm just looking for it. Local, etc., etc. Once you find where that is, then you'll just want to put that in, click OK. And you'll do both the Python 3.10 and Python 3.10 scripts. If you don't want to do it now, that's fine. Watch the video after. That's good. And then you'd go over to system variables, do the exact same thing. This is just going to make your life a little bit easier. It's not necessary, but in the long term, it'll make your life easier when we're doing other things. So those are the two things. That's environment variables. If you've got that all set up, then you're done. Like, that's it. That's...
I've got to say, Kay, I'm a bit lost.
Oh, no problem. No problem. The environment
But the
variable one...
environment-
The environment variable one is a little confusing, and it's not easy. It's not completely necessary. So I would say, like, just watch the video again after. If it doesn't make sense, you don't need it, and that's okay. That'd be the best way that I would describe that.
So, Kay, for all these years, I've been installing programs and having to put these variables in. It's actually to make the coders' lives easier and give them shortcuts.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any other questions or comments in terms of install? Because once we do that, then we'll start to do just a little bit of programming, and we'll do a little if statement with some variables, and we'll go from there. Anybody thoughts? No questions? Awesome. So we're gonna go back to your Visual Studio Code. I've got mine open here. You're gonna click to a new file, new text file, and you want to save it right away. And the reason why I save it right away to be something.py. Oh, I've already got something named py. Dang it! That's like final for sure .py. The reason why I save it first is because it tells Visual Studio Code, this is a Python file, please color it appropriately, otherwise it's just going to be all white text. So I've got that saved. That works. What we're going to do is we're going to first do a variable. Very, very simple variable. X equals 4. Super simple. I love that number. That's my number. That's what I go with. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to pull this one down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, I want to print, and then we're going to do the brackets. One of the nice things about Python is, with Visual Studio Code, is all I have to do is type the first opening bracket, and then it kind of populates the other one. And I just type print X, and then click enter, and print X, and then X there. So if I run that, it's just going to print 4 to my screen. 4. Perfect. Right there. Done. But I want to change it. And the goal here is I want to print all of the even numbers between 1 and 100. So that's what we're going to write just as our little bit of experiment. All of the even numbers between 1 and 100. So I kind of have to think about that. So I'm not. This isn't coding. This is me making notes. So print all the even numbers between 1 and 100. So the way I want to think about my logic, like what do I need to do? So the first thing that I need to do is I need to count from 1 to 100. The next thing I need to do is I need to check if a number is divisible. So if it I'll use an easier word. If a number is even, meaning can be divided by 2, for instance. And then if yes, print that number. So that's essentially, I just need to figure out how do I turn that into code. Now I know what I want it to do. So the first thing I want to do is count from 1 to 100. So I'm going to have a variable called count will equal it starting to 1. So that's my starting number. And then we'll do a while loop. We'll do while. We'll say while count is less than or equal to 100. We're going to do a colon at the end. The way Python works is if you're going to do, if something is like subservient to, or something where like this kind of belongs to this, like only do these things within the loop, don't just do, don't do everything, only these things, it starts with an indent. And the nice thing about the interpreter is that it already changes that for me. So I'm going to say, okay, so we'll say print count. And then we'll say print, or sorry, count equals count plus 1. So if I do this, that's our first step, right? That's count from 1 to 100 and print it to the screen. If I print that, we see all the numbers from 1 to 100 have printed there, which is awesome.
Hey, can I ask 2 questions, please?
Absolutely.
First and foremost, you're using spacing between things like count and the
while.
greater and equal to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that personal choice, or is that just the way it is? You have to space for it to work.
It is personal choice. Totally. Like I could do it this way. I could do this. I could do this, and bring that all in, and it would all work just the same.
Okay.
Having it on the new line is important. Like I can't do this.
Yeah.
But having it spaced that way, the only spacing that matters is the indent. So like if I have this indented, it's not going to work.
So can you revisit? Sorry, everybody, but
Sure,
I didn't understand that, and I work in PowerShell a lot, so I bloody well should do.
Okay. So what would you like me to explain? The indentation stuff?
So when you moved down, so
Yeah.
I've got while and count is less than or equal to 100, and
Yeah.
I've moved down. You said my natural way to get what you've just done is to press the tab key to move it in.
Yeah.
But you got that automatically, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So if I'll do it again. I'll write it again. Count less than or equal to 100. This, and I pushed enter, and it automatically indented for me. That's because the program just knows, like, oh, I'll do this for you. I know what you're trying to do, and I'll do it for you. And that's part of the Python interpreter with Visual Studio Code. It's one of their ways of making things easier.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on a very small screen, and I didn't see the colon afterwards.
Oh,
I've just done it,
yes.
and I've replicated. Sorry, my bad, people.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, that colon's important. And you'll see like little tiny like the squiggles, the red squiggles, like you have a typo. It kind of tells you that. Like if I were to run this program right now, it has the red squiggle there. It's saying you don't have anything in this loop. This isn't gonna work. I don't like this. So
yeah.
So if I delete
Thank you.
that squiggle's gonna go away. Okay, so we've printed the numbers from 1 to 100, but that's not what we wanted. We only want to print them if they're even. So we're gonna just make some space here, and we're gonna do if count is divided by 2. We'll see. Let me see. What would that do? If count is count divided by 2. Let's see here. Equals. How do we want to do this? So I'm trying to think of like a remainder for that. So what I'll do is we could just print count divided by 2 and see what that happens. See what happens there. Okay, so it is printing the half digits there. So it is converting it into a float for us. So that's good. So now we can print all of that count divided by 2. Wonderful. So we could say if, I mean, we can make this really complicated and say if count divided by 2 equals the count the the rounded version of count divided by. So what that would be is like we're gonna round the number, and if it's the same as the other one, or we'll round it down, it's the same as the other one. We're trying to figure out a way. How do I know that this is divisible by 2? And so what I would say is something to let's see. Honestly, I think the easiest way to do this is just this. So if we want to print, instead of us trying to figure out how do I divide this by 2 and then check if there's a remainder, like is there a 0.5? Because that'd be essentially what I'm doing. It's just like if this has a 0.5, then I'll print, then don't print it. But instead, I'm going to go back to my logic because it got a little confusing there. Like, how do I do that? Is there a better way to do this? And there is. The better way to do this is actually let's count, not from 1 to 100, but count 1 to 50. And then multiply each by 2. So instead of going to 100, I'm going to count 1 to 50. I'm still going to improve my count.
You can use percent modulus to check the remainder.
Yes, you're right. I didn't want to get too much into that. Your 1000% is mod instead of div, but I was just trying to show like we could change logic, but I'll show that for sure. I'll show that right after. You're right. So with this, now if I do this, it's going to count 1 through 50, and it's going to print each count times 2. So I'll do times 2 there. So the times key is shift 8. It's the little star that interprets it as a multiplication. And if I print that onto my screen, you'll see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, all the way up to 100. And that essentially solves our problem. So the idea is that there's lots of different ways to kind of interpret the data to get it what we want. We don't have to follow the easiest path. The other thing that, I don't know who said that. I wasn't paying attention to the chat. One, that's totally right. So what he's referencing is, I'm going to bring up a web browser here. Python mod function operator. So I looked that up. Python modulo in practice using the percent sign. So what that is what I'm going to say. So it's going to be like, how do I use it? It's just mod, I guess, here, or percent. There we go. Maybe I'll write something here. Let's do count. So it's the remainder. So if we did like 98 mod 2, the remainder of that, because 98 divided by 2, the remainder is 0, because there is no remainder. If we did 98 or 99 mod 2, so we divide 99 by 2, we would end up getting 49 with a remainder of 1. So we would know that that number then is odd. So his solution, which was a wonderful solution, is if count percent, so that's the mod sign, so percent 2 equals 0, we know that it's even. We'll print count. And now we have to count 1 through 100 again. And we'll see what happens here. I'll clear that screen and I'll click go. Syntax expected. Oh, I am missing something. I'm missing my colon at the end of the if statement. That's my bad. I was going too fast. And it printed out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 18, 20, all the rest. So that's one way to do it. If I wanted just to print the odd numbers, I would print it as if count mod 2 is equal to 1, and it would print all the odd numbers out for me. So that's a simple if statement, loop statement, and the very, very basics of programming for that. I don't know why that's up there. That doesn't need to be up there. That's it. That's all we're learning for today.
I don't know what I did. I've got true and false all the way down. I must have. I think it's because I'm viewing it so small.
So what you might have done is you probably only have one equal sign here. That's my guess. So if I change mine to one. I wonder if that'll work. No, it probably won't work. That's not it. How would you have arrived at that?
Don't worry. I
Either way.
digress.
Yeah, that's fun. That's it. So the next thing that we're gonna learn is we're gonna take these very, very simple lessons, and you can see like we've written like if I delete all this, this is 5 lines of code. In 50 or 20 more lines of code is all we need to write to do the bot that I made. That's all we need. Like, it'll be very, very simple. You'll be like, wow, this is easier than I thought. I'm like, yes, it is incredibly easy. And yeah, that's it. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll call her done.